مشاهدينا في كل مكان، أهلا بكم حلقة جديدة من برنامجنا. احنا النهاردة هنتكلم عن العلاقات السياسية والدبلوماسية وأيضا الفنية وفي مجال النقل والمواصلات بين المكسيك وجمهورية مصر العربية. هيكون ضيفنا النهاردة معالي السفير خوسيه أوكتافيو تريب، سفير المكسيك بجمهورية مصر العربية، فابقوا معنا. بشرفنا نكون معنا النهارده معالي السفير خوسيه أوكتافيو تريب، سفير المكسيك بالقاهرة. Your Excellency, first please allow me to thank you for this interview.
On the contrary, it's an honor to have you in the Embassy of Mexico. Thank you for visiting us.
Your Excellency, is there any similarities in between the historical background of the Egyptian and the Mexico? They both have a very big historical background. Do you think it has an influence on the people?
No doubt, both of us are ancient civilizations, and because of that, our people have a lot of pride. It's because this historical background, Egyptians are very proud to be Egyptians, and Mexican in a similar way also. We have the same pride for our historical roots. So this is one of the several similarities between Mexico and Egypt.
Your Excellency, in Horea Square in Egypt, we have the statues of the symbol of the freedom in Mexico. Can you tell us more about these statues that we have here?
Sure. We have our founder father in the Horea Park. By the way, a splendid park, very nice, with several heroes of different parts of the world. But the Mexican in particular is Don Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla. He was a priest, and he was the leader of the Mexican War of Independence from the Spanish crown. He was a very educated person. And he means a lot for the Mexicans because he represents freedom, and at the end of the day he gives us an identity in the globalized world. And Mexicans are very nationalistic, so we really appreciate the contribution of our founder fathers to the creation of Mexico, and this is why it's so relevant to have this character in Cairo.
There is a lot of field of cooperation in between Mexico and Egypt. Can you please talk about some of them? In which field exactly do we have the cooperations?
Sure. Well, we have an intense and systematic cooperation with Egypt since we established a relationship at the end of the 50s of the previous century. And since then we have developed an interesting and functional bilateral collaboration practically in all the fields of the national interaction. I mean, in economics, in the political area, in technical cooperation, and culture and cultural exchanges. One of the main features of the bilateral relationship is the intense and diversified cooperation that we have in the cultural field. I can tell you that in cultural field, and because of the relevance of Egypt and Mexico in such field, we both are world powers in cultural terms, so we have an intense cooperation in such field. We are, if you allow me the expression, we are mutually sexy in cultural terms, and this is why Egyptians appreciate the cultural expressions of Mexico in Egypt, and also the opposite, the Egyptian cultural expressions in Mexico are very valued.
Is there any other energy cooperation rather than the cool?
As I told you, we practically develop interactions in all the spectrum of the political relationship in the political area, in the multilateral affairs, for instance, in talking about global topics of the global agenda like environment, climate change, international migration. We have an intense dialogue and interaction between Mexico and Egypt because both countries are very active in the international arena. So this is another area of constant interaction between both countries.
المكسيك تجمع ما بين الحضارة الأسبانية والحضارة الأمريكية، وتتميز بمعالم سياحية خلابة وشواطئها الساحرة. تقع الولايات المتحدة المكسيكية التي تعرف بالمكسيك في قارة أمريكا الشمالية، ويحدها من الشمال الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، ومن الجنوب والغرب المحيط الهادي. كذلك تعد خامس أكبر بلد في الأمريكتين من حيث المساحة، وعاصمتها مكسيكو سيتي. أما العملة الرسمية فهي البيزو المكسيكي. ويعتبر فصل الشتاء هو الوقت المثالي للسياحة في المكسيك. مكسيكو سيتي تعد من أكبر مدن العالم، كونها تضم حوالي 21 مليون نسمة. وتتميز هذه المدينة بالمباني التاريخية، وأشهر منطقة تسوق وهي لازونا روزا. ومن أجمل المعالم السياحية فيها حلقة المصارعة بلازا دو توروس مكسيكو، وهي أكبر حلبة مصارعة سيران في العالم. وأيضا ميدان الزوكالو، وهو يعد من أكبر الميادين في العالم. And how much is the amount of investment in between the two countries?
Interesting question, because Mexico is probably the most relevant Latin American investor in Egypt, or where investment is almost $1 billion, so which it represents a lot. By far, Cemex is the most relevant Mexican investment in Egypt, but also there is another one like Polymers of Mexico, as a matter of fact, opened at the beginning of this year, despite the fact of the COVID, opened its first plant in Alexandria. This is, in fact, is the first Mexican company in Alexandria. And this is very interesting, but beyond of the amount of the investment, what is very relevant is that this company is sending a message to the Mexican global company in order to pay attention to Egypt like a multi-regional hub, connecting at the same time with Africa, with Middle East, in addition to the relevance itself of the Egyptian market. So this is why it's so relevant, the message that this company is sending to the Mexican global companies. And at the same time, let me highlight the fact that this is the first time in our bilateral relationship that we have Egyptian companies in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So we are very happy with that, to have electrics in Mexico, to have also Pico Cheiron in the energy sector. So in the field of investment, we have an interesting trend. It's necessary to deepen this interaction, but the direction, the path that we have in such area is very interesting.
And how do you see the economical cooperation or development in Egypt nowadays?
This country, like a red Ferrari, is getting a lot of traction and velocity. If you see the level of development of the infrastructure, for instance, roads, gates, new cities, new ports, it's incredible the rhythm that Egypt is facing, is living currently. It is a reference in the international arena.
And how do you see the new capital? Because Your Excellency, you spoke about the new places. So how do you see the new capital now?
I posted recently a tweet in my Twitter account, and the title of this tweet was "A Visit to the Future." And this is really a visit to the future. It's impressive, the style in architectural, from the architectural point of view of the city. It's a governmental city, but at the same time the financial district, and the monorail that this government is building. The activity is impressive there, but when you see the kind of or the amount of construction simultaneously that this government is promoting, and the fruits that you can see of this activity are impressive. So I'm astonished with the new capital, frankly speaking.
Allow me to ask, does the Mexican embassy have any intention to have a spot over there in the new capital?
This question of time. I think that sooner or later it's going to be necessary to move embassies, not only the Mexican, but it takes time. And of course, as you know, to spend money in new buildings always is a little bit controversial according to the national budget, but it's question of time. So sooner or later it's going to happen, but in the future.
And if you allow me, can we please talk about the cultural cooperation in between the two countries?
It's very intense and diversified, and successful at the same time. When we present cultural activities in Cairo or in Alexandria, always we have a lot of people, particularly young Egyptians, and that they really appreciate the cultural expressions, not only of Mexico, by the way, but it is an incentive for the artist to visit Egypt, and Cairo in particular. Cairo, frankly speaking, is the cultural capital of the Arab world. So this is why a lot of artists in the world, and the Mexicans in such contexts, really want to present their works or their performances in Cairo. So during the last 4 years, we have had in Egypt all kind of cultural expressions. In sculpture, the Wings of Mexico was in a giant sculpture was displayed in the Opera House here in Cairo. Music, dances. At the same time, in the area of film industry, I mean in the movies and the film festivals, the Mexican presence is constant. Singers, so all kind of cultural expressions, and we are very happy and proud with such activity.
Speaking about films, I would like to ask you, how do you see the participation of the Mexican film in Cairo Festival Film? This year.
We are very happy because this year the Mexican movie won the Golden Pyramid, but it's not the first time. 3 years ago, the Mexican film also won the Golden Pyramid in the festival, among other awards. So nowadays, the Cairo Film Festival is a must among the Mexican people linked to the film industry. So a lot of Mexicans want to visit Cairo and to participate in the festivals. And by the way, not only in the Cairo Film Festival, in the festival as well, among others. So in the future, Egypt is going to be invited, if COVID allows us to do that, is going to be the guest of honor in one of the most relevant film festivals in Mexico. So interaction is growing. So it means that the film industry and movies in particular are very interesting and attractive for each other. So now it's necessary to improve, or you allow me the expression, is necessary to increase this collaboration and make it even more relevant in order to open artistic opportunities for Egyptian artists in Mexico and Latin America, and the opposite, why not Mexicans in Egypt, in the Arab world. So both countries are leaders in the film industry in their respective areas. So I think that it is a realistic possibility.
Your Excellency, allow me to ask you about, go back to the economical cooperation. There is a Mexican mission trade next February. Can you please talk to us about it and the aim of this mission here in Egypt?
It's an interesting trade mission because by one side is the first time that since the COVID started, it's going to be the first trade mission that we receive again in Egypt after several years because of that, because of the pandemic. But an additional characteristic of this trade mission is that it's going to be binational trade mission, because a group of Mexican businessmen are coming with American entrepreneurs at the same time. So it's a Mexican-American business trade mission, and it makes very interesting this visit because of that, because it is binational. Mexico, Canada, and United States now are playing together in the economic terms, NAFTA area, if you allow me the expression, and in line with this logic, or with this rationality, is because Mexican and American are visiting a very relevant country in the Middle East, such as Egypt.
If you allow me, Your Excellency, I would like to know your mission for being the Dean of the Latin American ambassadors here in Egypt.
I'm the veteran of the group, and this is why I'm the Dean of the Latin American group. And my responsibility, it's honorary. I'm very proud of it, but at the end of the day, it's basically a question of protocol, coordinating my colleagues in some kind of common interaction with local authorities. I used to be the spokesperson of the group when we want to get a visit with some specific authority, or visiting a relevant place in Cairo. So coordinating our activity, to coordinate our activity is my main responsibility, and I used to be the first door to interact with local authorities when we are talking about the collectivity. I mean, when we are talking about the Latin American countries.
شكرا لكم لحسن متابعتكم النهاردة. كنا معاكم من داخل سفارة المكسيك، تحديدا في ضيافة معالي السفير خوسيه أوكتافيو تريب سفير المكسيك بجمهورية مصر العربية. أشكركم وعلى وعد بلقاء آخر، وإلى اللقاء.